Okay, good morning. My name is Pritpal Singh. I'm the chairman of the Electrical and Computer Engineering Department here. And do you want to introduce yourself, Nick?
I'm Nick Perini. I'm president of Technolog. I'm Nick Perini, president of Technolog, and I'll be kind of speaking the back half of this session. I'll be back.
So welcome to this session on creativity, and I hope that you'll learn that you can be more creative than perhaps you think you are. I certainly don't feel I'm very creative, so if I can demonstrate, we can be a little bit more creative, I'm certainly a good example of that. Okay, so first question is, what do we mean by creativity? Let me ask you to give me your input. What do you think creativity is? This is going to be a very interactive session, so if you guys don't participate, it's going to be a very quiet session. So, yes. Okay, so new ideas is certainly part of it. Anything else? Okay, so coming up with new ideas and also going in a different direction, perhaps, to less obvious things. Very good.
Doing something in a different way, the same thing in a different way.
Very good. So this is basically what I have as a definition: a process of transforming or combining old ideas, methods, or systems into ones that are useful or pleasing or solve a problem. So all of the things that you described really are captured in this definition. Okay, is innovation the same thing as creativity? It's a form of creativity. Okay, anything beyond that? Yes, Don.
Maybe the application of creativity?
The application. So not only coming up with new ideas, but applying them somewhere, right? And that's exactly right. A set of combined activities that lead to a new marketable product or service. And the implementation of new ideas, methods, processes, or technologies to create some value. If you have, for example, a new type of art piece, that's created some value, and it may not be, a marketable product. It may not create necessarily wealth, but it has some innovation to it that is different from what people have created before, and creates perhaps some benefit to society in terms of some new type of artwork. Okay, so innovation is really the application of creativity. All right, so the criteria for judging the success or impact of an innovation are based on the commercial value or the societal benefit of the idea or innovation. So we open up new markets, and I'm going to show some examples, and certainly Nick is going to share some examples as well. New industries established. Can you think of a new product that resulted in a new industry or a new market that opened up? Something very innovative that wasn't there before, that was transformational. Can you think of something? Telephone, certainly. The internet. GPS. So all of these, the computer, the iPhone, all of these were innovative products that had tremendous commercial value and created new industries as well. New business generated, societal problems reduced or eliminated. Can you think of a product that's innovative that resulted in transformation to society in terms of eliminating some type of problem?
An electric car.
Electric car is certainly one for the future, absolutely. Although I drive a Prius, so that's a hybrid electric car. Something else in terms of a social benefit that's reduced a societal problem. What about vaccinations, vaccines? Okay, I mean they've had a tremendous social benefit as well. And new art form. If you think of some of the great artists, for example, think of Picasso. And Picasso was innovative and came up with a new art movement of Cubism, and it was very different to what had gone before. Or if you think of Impressionism and Monet and so on, that whole movement created a new direction in art. So, you can have a societal benefit and a value of innovation in the art world as well as the product world. So innovation derives from creative processes that can be planned and managed. So it's not just a matter of having all these great ideas, but then you have to get them out into the marketplace, and that's where the planning and management comes in. All right, so we're going to first of all talk a little bit about creativity, and then look at how we can be more creative. So let's be creative. All right, so the first exercise I'm going to give you is the following. You have 9 dots. What I want you to do is to find a way of connecting those 9 dots with 4 lines. And given the time constraints that we have, what I'll ask you to do is when you come up with an answer, raise your hand, and then I'll call on you to come and show the rest of the class how to do that. So I'll give you a couple of minutes to try to solve this particular problem. You have a solution? Come on down and show us what your solution is. You're not confident to Okay. Anybody else have a solution? Can you use less than 4 lines? Yeah, if you can do it in less, that's even better. Do you think you have a solution? Want to come and show us your solution? Very good. That's certainly a solution. So for the rest of us who didn't get a solution, what was it that prevented you from getting a solution? Okay. So when I said 4 lines, many of us would think that the 4 lines have to be within that grid, right? So we're sort of imposing some rules on what we're allowed to do. And that's what limits creativity, when you impose these rules. And when you can sort of break those rules and barriers down, that allows you to be more creative. All right, let's go through one more quick exercise. We want to add 1 line to this IX and make 6, okay? So let me give you a couple of minutes to work on that, and when somebody has a solution, let me know. Yes? You want to come and tell us what your solution is? I'm just adding 1 line. That's certainly one solution, right? Did I say it had to be a straight line? I said 1 line to make that 6, right? So again, we were constrained thinking it has to be a straight line. We're imposing these barriers on our creativity. As soon as we break down those rules, we can be more creative. And this is basically the basis for being more creative, is to recognize that there are constraints that are self-imposed, and to think of how we can remove those constraints so we can open up other possibilities. So there's a famous person who's really done a lot of great work in moving us to be more creative, and this is Edward de Bono. And he developed this concept of lateral thinking, which is if you're going down a path and you come to some dead end here in terms of thinking of a solution to a problem, then instead of continuing down that path, you should move in another direction. So you move in some lateral direction. Now, how can you go off into that other direction? So there are some techniques that he developed for getting you to go off the normal path that you'd be going along to go off into a different direction. So this is the concept of lateral thinking. And so let's think a little bit about the way that the brain works and what sort of constrains us in terms of our thinking, and then what we can do to get out of those constraints. So de Bono's definition of lateral thinking is based on patterns. And our brains are very good advanced pattern matching machines. And this normally works very well. So here's an example of pattern matching. You have two pictures there. I'm not sure how easily you can see them, but they're parts of some objects. Can someone tell me, looking at the picture on the left, what that object is? You're only seeing part of the object there, and I know it's not very clear, but can you see what that represents?
Chair?
Yeah, it's the base of a chair. Okay. How about the picture on the right? Can you see what that is? The corner of a bed, right? So even though you're only given partial information about the objects here, our brains are very good at recognizing the pattern there and then being able to expand from that. So this is an example of how good the brain is in terms of pattern matching. The problem with patterns is that it constrains you. Okay, so you have the triangle here, you have the other triangle, and then the circles there. And this, because of the way the pattern is set up, it sort of forces you into thinking in particular ways. So how can we get out of that pattern matching and get into more creative ways of looking at things? So many important discoveries are based on chance or accidental discoveries. So, for example, many of you may be familiar with the Post-it note, and the Post-it note was developed because someone was trying to develop a particular type of adhesive, and it turned out to be a very poor form of adhesive. And somebody came up with the idea, well, this could be used for sticking things on the wall. So, it was by accident that it turned out to be a weak adhesive that became a product. But it was not deliberately going out to try to find a weak adhesive. So, so the brain is really not well suited for pattern changing, and so the techniques of lateral thinking that de Bono developed were really a means of more deliberately being able to switch out of the pattern that you're used to and going off in some different direction. And some of these things would seem obvious in hindsight, but at the time they're difficult to come up with, just like the Post-it note. So de Bono came up with this term PO, and it's part of a number of words like hypothesis, the PO is in there, possibility, PO is in there, and all of these things are sort of more broadening out from the normal way of thinking. So basically it means crazy thoughts that are not meant to be serious suggestions, but provocative stepping stones to go off in different directions. And their purpose is to inspire other ideas and branches of thought. So, okay, so here's some examples of techniques for lateral thinking. Random entry. So we randomly choose an object and associate it with whatever you're thinking about. Okay? And a common way of doing this is to open a dictionary up to some random page, pick out a word from that page, and then use that to link up and move you in a different direction. Provocation is basically you come up with a list of ideas, and you essentially get rid of some of the initial ideas that you come up with because they're sort of constraining you in a particular direction, and then you try and build on the ones that are least obvious, and challenging the norm. And things like brainstorming are a good way of doing this, where you have a group of people throwing out various ideas, and I'm sure you're all familiar with the basic brainstorming techniques, but that's an example of trying to get out of the normal way of thinking. All right, so I'm going to give you a couple of lateral thinking exercises. We'll start with the first one, okay? So the first one is you're trying to come up with a solution to a problem. The problem is that you are in a city and you don't have the resources to put parking meters everywhere and also pay meter maids to go around and check the parking meters. How can you come up with a scheme where people will only park for a limited time? What can you come up with in terms of a set of rules that causes them to, after some time, have to move their car? Okay? So let's take a couple of minutes to think about that, and let me encourage you to maybe work in groups on this and come up with some ideas. So if you want to group together in groups of 3 or 4 and think about a way of coming up with a self-limiting approach for cars. We'll give you a couple of minutes to work on that. Okay, we'll give you one more minute to wrap up, and then Okay, time's up. So what I'd like to do is to go around the room and find out what ideas you came up with. So let's start on this side of the room. Guys at the back want to begin?
We kind of thought of having people self-police the parking lot. For example, I'm a freshman and I have to do my own laundry. So when like the dryer's done but there's clothes still in there, you like take out the clothes and put in your own clothes. So
Okay.
what you would have is someone when you went and parked, you have a ticket and the ticket would have a number on it. And if someone had passed 2 hours, someone would report that. And when that keeps on happening, people would eventually think to move it. So you wouldn't have to pay a meter maid.
Okay, so it's a self-policing approach where everyone is watching everyone else. Okay, that's certainly a solution. Did you guys come up with some ideas?
Not sure this really solves the problem, but I guess when you enter the city, you can buy a ticket to park in a certain area of the city, and then you can have like certain color-coded things so people could see if it wasn't there, so it'd be easier to check the meters, I guess, and other people could check and see.
Okay, so some other form of being able to show that your time is
And you pay before
passed. Okay. How about the next group on the table there?
Parking garages are a good thing because it kind of helps to see how many people are going in and out, and you don't really have to worry about meters.
Okay. How about the front row here?
We thought of like parking garage concept where you take the ticket, upgrade it, and then whatever you want to stay is up to you, but the more you stay, the more you have to pay. So it's not influencing people to leave sooner.
Okay.
Before they stay.
All right. So what I've heard so far are really very conventional things for the most part, in terms of either having some type of ticketing, some type of parking garage where you have centralized parking. Did any of the other groups come up with anything that's really self-limiting, that, you know, if you don't get back to your car, something's going to happen? Yes, you guys.
Sign that says
Free
free hubcaps.
hubcaps? Okay.
I thought maybe like if you had to hook your car battery up to something that slowly drained it,
Mm-hmm.
you only had like an hour to get back before you used the new battery.
That's a great idea, and I'll come back to that. You had,
I thought it was some type of rotational platform underneath the car, so that say you put an hour of time in, after the hour's up, the car will fall off the engine.
so, yes, so that's certainly a creative solution, but I'm not sure that it's very practical, but it's certainly a good idea.
I was thinking like, put a little hammer on the meter, and like, I don't know when the meter runs out, they would smash the railing.
Okay. Well, all right. Given the time constraints, I'm already well over the time that I was allotted. So, but the idea that De Bono had come up with that I thought was a great one was based on your concept, where basically you turn on your headlights and then you go do your shopping and so on. If you don't get back in time, your battery's drained, and so you've got a built-in self-limiting approach there. So you see how we had to really go out of the box in terms of thinking. You know, it's a very cliche type of expression, but a number of you are still sort of constrained in terms of your thinking, and it takes a lot of practice to get really out beyond the boundaries that are self-imposed. Okay, I just want to mention a couple of innovative products, and then I'm going to hand it over to Nick to talk about some other innovative products that he's been working on. The Hellman Miller Aeron chair, which you see on the left there, that was a sort of transformational product, and in fact it was very interesting because it was revolutionary in that nobody had ever thought of a chair like that before. And in fact, when the first people looked at that chair and thought about sitting in it, they just said, we would never buy a chair like this. It looks too much like a bug. And, in fact, as they were trying to do some product research on it, what they ended up doing was putting a cover over the back of it so it looked like a regular chair. And as people then sat in it and they felt comfortable, they said, this is a good chair. And then eventually they were able to take that cover off and sell it in that form. But sometimes these very creative ideas people are not ready for, and they're very uncomfortable about adopting them. And so, sometimes there's a period of time that's required for people to really adapt to some of the more revolutionary new ideas. And of course, the iPhone, I think you're all familiar with many of its features, that you can, scroll through the menu using your fingers, and it doesn't have a keypad on there, and your voicemail can be given in any particular order, and so on. So there are a number of very innovative features in that particular product. Anyway, I'm well over my time, so I'm going to hand it over to Nick for his presentation.
Well, now that Dr. Singh has kind of expanded our mind, I want to tap into these beautiful minds here. We're going to do a little interactive session here at the end. I started a business a couple years ago, about 2, but it's been something that's been on my mind for about the last 15 years. So what I want to have you do is help me kind of move this company to this next level. And I'm going to show you a little video clip about what this company is about. But first, I got to tell you, this is so exciting to be here at Villanova and presenting to these you beautiful people. I mean, really, to be full in a room with students and fellow entrepreneurs and future entrepreneurs is really exciting for me. So thank you all for being here. All right, what was kind of cool about Dr. Singh and I, when we put this presentation together, we did it separately. His is going to be a little different than mine. But what we both came together on, it was funny. Wikipedia said there's about 60 different definitions for creativity. But we together kind of came about as one, and that is the act of producing new ideas, approaches, and actions. Kind of cool thing is, you think of Bill Gates. I mean, this guy earned a comfortable living, but he never really had a new idea. But it was always about how he took something that was already existing and applied something new to it, a new approach to it. So with that, this session is about creativity unleashed, and finding your inner genius. And in my research, now I'm not a doctor, but as you see from this illustration here, I always thought it was pretty cool. It kind of identifies where creativity comes from. In this particular case, as you see, it comes from the right side of the brain. Something that I want to point out, it's kind of a little off the topic, but something I learned is kind of a life lesson, and not too long ago. As an entrepreneur, we kind of operate from that right-hand side of the brain. It's blue skies and everything's going to be great. We're going to grow a business. We're going to do this and that. But then there's that analytical side, too. I sold a company, and what I was doing in the beginning was painting this beautiful picture of how we're going to grow this business. And of course, I wanted a lot of money in selling the company. He didn't quite get that. And there was really a lot of conflict between myself and my new boss. We ended up actually selling this company. And what I realized, and it was this simple illustration to help me realize that people are different. And in order to move forward, whether it be in business or in life, you've got to understand where people come from. We're not all creative. In fact, most of us probably operate somewhere in the middle. But in life and in business, you'll find yourself, particularly in business, is working with people from the analytical side as well. And the cool thing about this illustration, the cool thing about life and everything is building those bridges, being able to communicate. We have a much better relationship now with my new boss than we did in the last year. I mean, it got to a point where we would probably come to blows if we saw each other. Fortunately, he was in Detroit and we're in Philadelphia. But anyway, that's kind of an aside, but this is a pretty powerful illustration. Kind of fun, though, too, kind of cool. But the point is here, too, we all have creativity in us. I mean, we have one of these brains in us. And so we're going to try to tap into that. Now, I know I have a little bit more, maybe to say, but I'm going to cut right to it. I'm going to show you a little clip about our new business. And this is what we want to have you, again, think about. I'm going to kind of set it up, how we put this thing together. It's been a dream of mine 15 years ago. I first came up with this concept. I was a baseball coach. I coached for 17 years. And I said, man, here's this picture day where these kids come and hold a bat and get their pictures taken. I said, wow, what if we could just put them in a video? And what if we could take that video and stick that kid in an all-star game or a World Series? Wouldn't that be really cool? So we did. When I was able to sell the business, it gave me enough money to kind of start this other, what we call Digital All-Star. And I'm going to run it here. I'm not going to run the whole thing. It takes about 5 minutes, but I'm just going to run a couple minutes of it, and I'll shut up.
Baseball fans took part in a 5-day celebration.
Can you see it?
The All-Star game being played for the last time in the historic stadium. FanFest is packed with all kinds of interactive exhibits, but one that stood out from the rest
Notice the New York accent.
Green, founder of the digital interactive company called Digital All-Star, where people of all ages and abilities are able to be part of the game. Fans were filmed in front of the green screen and digitally placed on the actual movie field, then interviewed by Fox reporter Chris Meyer on how it feels to be MVP. And by the sound of it, they have a lot to say.
How does it feel to be this year's All-Star Game MVP? Babe, I won the award. Oh my God, you did it! Yeah, I did.
And I'd like to formally announce my engagement to Mr. David Wright. We're all going out for drinks and tattoos after this.
But really, Daniel was the best.
No, you're the
No, you're the best.
First and foremost, I have to thank my most important teammate, my wife. Without her, I'd be nothing. I know this because she's always telling me. You're nothing.
Wow, this is a great moment. I'm not used to being on TV. I'm a little nervous, but how's my hairline?
I'd like to thank the millions and millions of my fans and remind you to be a thinker, not a stinker. Say no to drugs and stay in school.
All right. You got it. You got the concept. It's been a lot of fun putting that together. You're talking about creativity. I mean, some of the obstacles we had to we encountered trying to move this thing forward has been kind of a labor of love. Some of the early obstacles we had was technology. When we kind of thought about this thing 15 years ago, or if not longer, technology didn't exist. But today you can get it off the shelf, which raises another obstacle, and that is anybody can do this. So we have to continue to try to look for ways to be creative and raise the bar. Licensing. I always thought that licensing, whether it be with Major League Baseball, all I had to do was write a check, but that's not really the case. In fact, what we've been finding out is that Major League Baseball, NASCAR, and these are the family jewels. This footage that they have of All-Star games and World Series are their family jewels, and we have to find ways to get access to that kind of that footage because it's critical. It's our lifeblood to move this business along. One of the kind of things that tripped us up in the beginning was I thought, wow, we do this at a baseball field. You know, they take pictures on picture day. You've probably all been there, had your pictures taken in Little League. But what I realized, what I quickly found out was with video equipment, lighting is so critical because we're trying to match it up with other existing footage that's there. You know, it wasn't even a thought. So I said, well, how are we going to control the environment? You know, again, an obstacle, kind of overcame that with a simple solution. Let's build a tent. You know, so we do that, put lights in it. Putting together the right team. You know, we interviewed a lot of people. We spent months trying to bring the right people on who got it, who understood what this dream or this idea was. And we finally found a group in Florida that we're working with. You saw that crazy guy doing all that. That's our production manager, Aaron Jordan. And he got it simply because he had a kid in Little League, too. But we were finding people that said, no, this can't be done. Or, you know what, you're making a movie here. It's going to cost hundreds of thousands of dollars just to build a prototype. He said, well, we can't afford, that. So, finding the right people was critical. And then keeping employee motivation high. As we're going along here, we're kind of charting new territory. And it's not easy. So we're always having to be creative. We're always having to find ideas. How do we move this thing forward? And, what is important? What motivates people? What is it that motivates our team? So we're always looking for that. One of the things that we kept it pretty simple, but we really believe this in our hearts, is that, and as you notice, some of the people, we had some 2,000 people go through that fan fest in New York, and all of them were people with abilities. There was a lot there was MS, there was some kids with Down syndrome, but we got them all, and they got to receive this award, and that's been really cool for us and kind of gives us the inspiration to keep going on. And then raising the bar, as I said, has also been a challenge and continues to be a challenge because of technology being what it is. Anybody can do this. So anyway, this is where we're going to kind of need your help. We're talking with Major League Baseball and all these guys here, Major League Baseball, NASCAR, NFL. NFL's, actually, we called them. They said, get back to us when you're a real business. It's been a little discouraging. NASCAR said, hey, we love this concept, but guess what? If you want to be at the Daytona 500 this year, it costs $40,000 just to get your footprint, just to get in the infield there, and that doesn't give you anything else. That doesn't even give you something to plug into. So there's some obstacles like that. The PGA said, you want to do what? And Major League Baseball, however, and we're excited about this, especially, the timing is pretty good. We've been guaranteed we're going to have a spot next year at Citizens Bank Park, so look for us there. We will be at Citizens Bank Park. Problem is it doesn't pay the bills right now, so we have to find a way to keep this company moving forward. One of the things we're doing right now is looking, and Villanova was an inspiration to this, is college basketball. We're looking to put this kind of same concept where we have maybe a celebrity, in a green screen. Thing was that, Chris Myers wasn't there, although he did show up. We actually filmed him in California in his garage, put all these pieces together in front of that green screen. General Motors sent us some footage of the Chevy Hybrid, so all these components came together to create that illusion or that little movie here. But anyway, college basketball is where we're going to try to target. There's about 1,000 games we've identified we want to get to. Problem is, cost. I mean, it's costing us $5,000 to run one of these productions. If we were to come to Villanova and run it for a night, it costs us about $5,000. But with the time constraints that we have, moving people in and out, the most we can make it about $25. That's where we want to keep it. Price point is about $3,000. So you see, right away we've got a problem. Even in my simple brain with the math, it doesn't work. So the more events we do, the faster we lose money. So what I want to just again, we could do this quickly because we do have a couple of minutes. Again, we have talent, like Chris Myers as part of this production. We have production costs. We have employee costs. We have travel costs. We have a lot of different costs. And I know I'm not giving you a whole lot of information, but just on what I've given you and what you've seen, in order for us to move forward, we've got to try to lower these costs. Now, we have some ideas ourselves, and we're working on some things. But does anybody there have an idea of what we could do to move this concept forward and make this dream come true? So that you'll see us next year at Citizens Bank Park. Anybody have any ideas on what we could do to help cut some costs? Please. We're here in Malvern, Westchester, and the production is done in Florida. One of the biggest challenges we have right now is just that. The logistics of trying to put a team together to cover as many games as we can. And you're absolutely right. That is definitely that is the priority right now. Trying to get the biggest bang for the buck. Yes.
In terms of video production, have you said lower cost by using digital cameras, or I don't know what kind of equipment you use, but I mean in terms of encoding and leveraging IP.
Absolutely. It's a great idea. Simplify. We went to FanFest and and our production guy, he wanted to have the latest and greatest of equipment. Well, we really don't need that. And so that is something we're looking to do. And in fact, to your point, we recognize that in order to try to raise the bar, we want to build our own equipment. In fact, one of my real heroes and has been an inspiration to me is Ed Doherty, one of your own. He's a professor here of engineering. He developed the SkyCam. Was on the team that developed the SkyCam and won an Academy Award. Well, he's part of our team too. Because being able to develop, adding computer and the camera, putting all those elements together is what we're trying to do to try to lower the cost, but raise the bar for others to get in. Please.
I don't understand your business model. Who is it that pays you? Is it the person who's in the screen? Is it the sponsor?
That's a good point. Our original business model was to go out and sell these at a price point of like $25 a piece. In the FanFest, what we did, and like most businesses, you adjust. What we found was we were basically for hire. GM came and sponsored that whole event for us. So we went in as GM. So in that particular case, we actually got a sponsor to cover all the costs. And so you were on to something. That's something we've been considering now too. Get sponsors. Maybe that could help out. Maybe we can't lower the cost too much more, but maybe bring sponsors on to help fray some of the cost. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Kind of go along with that sponsorship. If you add advertising, because what do you give it to them on a DVD? People who come in.
In New York, we gave it to them on a DVD. Yeah.
For example, if you put 2 commercials before the video started or whatever, you can make more money that way. And then maybe you could lower the price that you're charging the actual people on screen to make more people view the commercials.
It's a great idea. Please.
Two things. One, on a location basis, there's definitely a couple interesting models on the academic side and on the commercial side. Villanova is actually a fantastic location. There's about 475 universities in a 300-mile radius, out of which everybody has heat, everybody has fans. And going back to the question with
Yeah, we found that last year at the.
It really does a nice key, and it's in that world that you're in. You're talking about a day that could cost, like you say, $5 from a day that costs $100, or a day that costs $500. And there's not much difference in between 10,000 and 100,000 if you're really just doing kind of that one subject and it's just showing up screen.
Mm-hmm.
So location-wise, I think, for us, as we travel all over the place, this location works when it comes to this type of stuff. And bringing up sponsors, I think that, places like the universities have CBS, CSTV, which have their own companies, and ISP, working with universities that have internal companies, marketing companies that bring in the big sponsors. It's kind of like, it seems to be, if we find the right niche, they're shooting fish in a barrel.
That's what we're looking for. we got to wrap this up real soon. I appreciate.
We'll take two more.
Well, I was just going to say, to go along with the advertising thing, if you maybe looked into making it more look like ESPN with like Sports Center, like as if they were on Sports Center, then you could have advertising in like a big ticker at the bottom without that person even realizing that there's advertising on there. So
That's great.
not necessarily I have to watch a commercial before I see myself. Like they can see themselves all the time, and you're still getting that advertising.
It's fantastic. It's a great idea. It's a great idea.
Bob, you like? One more?
Please.
Completely limited just to sports.
No.
I see the same thing. Think about your own model. You should start telling the people, bars that eat this stuff up. It's going to be the next karaoke that you show them that they're actually at the concert or they're doing a famous
Oh,
event in sports.
yeah.
Kind of thing.
Absolutely. One of the coolest things for us too was when we started this is to work with kids and adults with disabilities too. Show them areas where they can be successful, even if it's around the kitchen, or have them they maybe never be able to swing a bat in Yankee Stadium, but they could sing the national anthem, and put them there and make them see their success. So yeah, that's great. It's great. I know we gotta.
Well, I know Nick has a great last couple of slides.
Just real quickly, how do you unleash this inner genius? I mean, this was a great. This is my first time doing something like this, and I just love it. Always look, when you're looking for ideas. I mean, always, I come to you anywhere, whether you're cutting the grass, taking a shower. Sometimes when you're focused on something, you come up with great ideas, things that maybe take you down another path. But always be on the lookout for great ideas. Look for inspiration. Part of our inspiration with this Digital All-Star was to work with maybe kids and adults with disabilities and put them in things that they can be successful doing. That keeps us going, keeps us through those times when we get rejections. And then question everything. Just continue to question everything. And it's when you can't find the answer that maybe you're really onto something special. That's about it. There's about one thing that I think you'll always try to remember. And I figure I get some applause here.
Well, as much as
Thank you.
We had a lot of fun here, and of course the time went by quicker than we would have liked. But if you have any last-minute questions before we break for lunch, please, we'd be happy to entertain them.
And we'll be around too. I'll be around all day. If you have questions for me, please catch me anywhere. And I'd love to talk to you about your ideas and if I can help you guys too.
I guess everyone's ready for lunch. So thank you again for attending, and see you later on. I think that's mine. I want you to. That was great. I think it worked out well. I noted the ideas that we
great.
picked up, so you may want to
Bring them down.